Well, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Unbottled Potential. It's me, Amanda. And today we're talking about the spiritual consequences of alcohol. Now, this is an important topic for any of you who are on a spiritual or a spiritually curious journey and who are also reconsidering your relationship with alcohol, or maybe you have already quit drinking. Maybe you're wondering if you should quit drinking and you're not really sure how it all ties together. And I wanted to share this information with you because the foundations of spirituality and sobriety have been the two most fundamental pieces of my personal development journey. And they, I could not have one successfully without the other, I think. And there are so many times that we discount how much alcohol affects us on other levels, specifically on a spiritual level. So if you're someone who is on a spiritual path or would desires to be, I really want to speak with you today and share with you some of the top spiritual consequences or spiritual effects that alcohol has on that journey. And these are things that I will be honest, I desperately did not want to look at when I was first becoming sober curious. Because if you listen to previous episodes, you know that my spiritual journey began first, and I was on this path where I was doing all of the spiritual things. I was following all of the who's who of Oprah's Super Soul Sunday, and I was reading the metaphysical text, A Course in Miracles. I was going to the meditations. I was using the affirmations. I was doing all of the spiritual stuff that I was told would make my life wonderful, and something still wasn't clicking. And so often when I get on clarity calls with women who are wanting to talk with me about one-on-one coaching, they speak the same story, that they're kind of on this path and it seems like they know that they're doing all the right stuff, but it isn't quite making sense or quite sinking in at the level that they feel that it should be. And if you are drinking at any level, more than a thimble or a glass of something every now and then, you are definitely going to be experiencing these spiritual effects or consequences of alcohol that I want to share with you today. So let's dive in and talk about the different ways in which alcohol affects you on a spiritual level. And before I get started, though, I do want to clarify that this is not to say that alcohol is bad, wrong, evil, or sinful. The simple fact is that alcohol is an energetic substance and it affects you on an energetic level, which we'll get to in a second. And anything that affects you energetically is going to affect your ability to connect metaphysically, and really tap into that spiritual connection of your own understanding that is available to you all the time because, well, I'll get into why. Let's just go ahead and get started. So, the first reason that alcohol has spiritual consequences is that alcohol amplifies the voice of the ego. Now, in the metaphysical text, A Course in Miracles, the ego represents the inner voice of fear. It is the voice of lack, of anxiety, of judgment, of you can't do that, or who are you to XYZ, or you deserve to be upset about this. It is this voice that drives us to hold back and drives us to be separate and different from others. And it's just a voice of inner turmoil, really. And it's not a nice voice. Yet we have been so accustomed to listening to this voice because it gives us some sort of sense of false protection. Because if we're always on edge waiting for the other shoe to drop, then hopefully we can get ahead of the bad thing that might potentially happen to us someday. But what a place to live in when you're always living from guidance from the voice of fear, judgment, lack, separation. That it just doesn't feel good. Yet we've all become so accepting of this as the path that we hardly realize it's happening. And yet, what alcohol does is it literally gives fuel to the fire for the ego. Every time you drink, it allows you to stay stuck in this place of inner turmoil because, frankly, you just don't have the energy to do more. And because alcohol is a depressant, it naturally jazzes up those feelings of anxiety and depression. And so the ego, that inner voice of fear, gets to stay in control. And control is what keeps the ego alive. So, of course, anytime you've had that inner discussion of maybe I should quit drinking, oh, the ego is right there speaking up. Oh, no, you shouldn't do that because then you'd be a huge weirdo. Oh, no, don't quit drinking. You'd be a social outcast. Oh, no, don't quit drinking. You don't have a problem. Just cut back a little. The voice of the ego is the one that's been keeping you stuck in the perpetual cycle because if you quit drinking, then you might listen to the second voice, which is the voice of your inner guide. And the second way that alcohol keeps us stuck spiritually is that alcohol muffles the voice of our inner guide. Now, as compared to the ego, the inner guide is the internal voice of love. It is the voice opposite of the ego. It is the voice of possibility, of potential, of abundance, of connection. And this voice is a little more subtle. It doesn't nag at us quite like the ego. In fact, it whispers to us, and those whispers are intuitive hits, intuitive nudges. And when you drink, you automatically dilute the voice of the inner guide. You make it more difficult to hear. I always use this comparison. Drinking is like giving the ego a state of the art iPhone next to the best cell phone tower in town and giving the inner guide a busted ass flip phone from 1990 something and putting it in a tunnel. So you're amplifying the voice that you don't want to hear from, and you're muffling the other voice that actually can be tremendously helpful for you. Now, when you remove alcohol out of the picture, you automatically get a better connection, better reception to the voice of the inner guide. You are always connected to this voice, but if you have unwittingly offered it a shitty connection, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're not going to be able to tune in and to feel in and to really hear the messages that that inner guidance system is giving you. And the inner guidance system is always going to nudge you towards your highest self, your highest version of achievement, your highest potential, your connection to source energy or the universe or God, or whatever presence you want to call that spiritual presence of beyond your physical sight. The inner guide is your direct connection to that. And the ego is so intimidated by your connection to the inner guide that it will do anything at any cost to keep you stuck. And alcohol is an amazing tool to keep you stuck and listening to that voice of the ego. So, the first two reasons that alcohol, there is a spiritual consequence of alcohol, is that it amplifies the voice of the ego and it muffles the voice of the inner guide. Those are two very, very important concepts. Now, also on a spiritual level, alcohol dilutes energetic gifts. And I know many of you listening maybe don't know it yet, but it's very likely that you are highly intuitive, highly empathic, or maybe even that you have some sort of energetic gift, like you are clairvoyant, claircognizant. You have this sense of knowing that's inexplicable. And for so many of us, and I actually want to state that everyone has deep intuition. We are all deeply intuitive beings. Some people just have that intuition dialed up. But in a world where we're taught that that's hogwash or that's woo woo or that's strange or weird, sometimes we've dialed down our intuition. We've tried to hide from it. We've tried to hide from energetic gifts. We've tried to hide from these things that make us unique and wonderful and tapped in to other people and tapped into ourselves and tapped into the universe. And they're devalued. They are things that make us feel too sensitive or different than or other than. They make us feel like we perceive the world in a different way than others, and they make us feel weird. And so what we do is we often reject these gifts. Yet these gifts want so badly to come through because they are a part of our very soul, of our authentic code. And so one of the things that we can do to drown down our authentic gifts, our intuitive nature, our empathic selves is to drink alcohol. It dilutes that voice. In fact, I have some clients who are highly, highly intuitive who have said that that is absolutely what they would do, or they would drink to make them feel more comfortable with bringing their intuitive gifts to life, because when they were drinking, they didn't have this kind of self-conscious effect of tapping into their intuition. So there's many ways in which we can use alcohol to either dilute or to maybe even make us feel more comfortable in some settings, utilizing our energetic gifts. And the problem is that across the board, though, that it's making them less powerful. It's making our connection to our intuition less clear. And you are giving these gifts for a reason. Now, if you're not someone who resonates with this particular point, that's okay. I think that many of you will, though. And I know that personally, I've known since I was a little kid that I was deeply intuitive and that there was something kind of weird and wonderful about me. And as I have stepped into my alcohol-free path, I have become so much more in touch with that side of me. And it's become such a beautiful piece of my life. And I feel so much more authentically embodied and so much more at home in myself, I guess is even a more generic way to put it. I feel at home. And that's a really good feeling to have, is to feel at home and safe in your body, and that you are tuned in and tapped in, and that you are utilizing every gift and every piece of brilliance and every authentic piece of your persona that was given to you. And that's why you were built. You would not have been given gifts or emotions or abilities to feel and understand and see the world in a certain way if you were not intended to use them, my friend. And so every moment you spend disconnecting from those gifts is a moment that you are becoming more and more discontent with your life. And you deserve to live a life where you feel truly connected and truly supported and truly, truly in full use of every gift that you've been given. And when you live at that level, you will find that there is no place for alcohol because you'll no longer feel sad, anxious, depressed. Yes, you might have anxiety, depression, and those things, but you will no longer feel the disconnection that causes some of those symptoms to come up. Um, of course, not void of any psychological condition that might make you predisposed to those things. But so often I find that those feelings of disconnection come because we've actually disconnected from a very authentic, important part of ourselves. And so as a non-drinker now, I'm just so much more beautifully connected to them. And it feels really, really, really good. And I want that for you too. All right. So the next way, the fourth way in which alcohol has a spiritual consequence is that alcohol hinders manifestation. And I have several episodes in my Stop Drinking, Start Manifesting series where I explain the process of manifestation even more. But to really simplify things, manifestation isn't about getting what you want. It's about aligning with what you want. And alignment happens on several levels. And one of the most simplified levels that alignment happens is energetically. And I have a whole bunch of knowledge on alcohol and manifestation. If you are interested in that, you are a good candidate for my course, Stop Drinking, Start Manifesting, which I'll link. It's actually starting soon. We're starting another cohort, and it's my favorite course to teach because this is such important information. But let's get back to it. Alcohol hinders manifestation because it changes your energetic frequency. Alcohol is a low vibrational substance, and every time you interact with a substance that lowers your vibration, you pull yourself further and further away from your high vibrational manifestations. Because I'm going to go out on a limb here, that the things that you are desiring are not low vibe things. You are desiring high vibe experiences, people, higher levels of abundance, higher levels of just interaction coming into your life. But if you are frequently and consistently drinking alcohol, you are frequently and consistently lowering your energetic vibration, therefore making it more difficult for you to match with, connect with the thing that you want. So manifestation isn't about getting what you want. It's about aligning with what you want. And if you're out of energetic alignment, you can still get what you want. It's just going to feel more difficult. And for me, I always talk about it as feeling as though you are on a treadmill that's at full incline and full resistance. And so you're going, but you're not going anywhere really fast. And you're getting nowhere fast is what I'm trying to say. That's the analogy. There we go. And you will manifest at such a more rapid rate when you are in full alignment. And it's been really cool to see some of the things that have come into my life and the lives of my clients when they have gotten into that space of alignment and attraction and to where they are a quick match for the thing that they want. So alcohol hinders manifestation. Now, the final way in which alcohol has a spiritual effect or consequence is that alcohol opens leaks in your energetic and auric field. Now, for those, we are all sensitive beings, but some interesting things about alcohol. I do not consider myself an expert on these spiritual principles here that I'm about to teach, but I think it's really interesting that alcohol comes from the Arabic word alcohol, which translates into body eating spirit, which doesn't sound very positive to me. And although alcohol has often been used in a ceremonious way within religious and spiritual ceremonies, the disciples and Jesus certainly were not slamming wine around the table and getting plastered, right? It was a very ceremonious, and if they were, somebody please let me know, but that is not what I envision happening yet. So often we take it to the extreme, and I've heard more than one time someone justify, well, Jesus turned water into wine. Not for you to guzzle every night. That was not his intention. I'm certain of that. Not for you to check out of reality. So we misuse alcohol, and alcohol has spiritual and energetic properties that disrupt and make us vulnerable to other people's energetic properties. So if everything has an energy to it. Like alcohol is low vibe. I have some crystals on my desk. Those are high vibe. I guarantee you've also experienced places that have places and people that have lower vibration. And when we drink, we open ourselves up to kind of collecting that dark entity. I wouldn't say like, I don't want it to sound like you're getting possessed because that's not what we're saying here. We don't need to do some sort of exorcism. But what you're doing is you're soaking in those dark energies and all of the energies around you, the lower vibe energies, because you are taking down your energetic field when you drink. So some ways in which I've experienced this is that, you just feel the weight of the world more easily when you are drinking. Um, Especially when you're hungover, you've like collected all of this gunky energy from whatever bar you were at, hanging out with all of these strangers who are on various states of emotional disarray. You start to become more relaxed. So you let your guard down, and then you become susceptible to those emotions, to those energies, to those feelings, especially if, back to one of point three, if you are an empath, you are more susceptible to soaking in others' emotions anyway. And so when you drink, you let that guard down and you take on the weight of the world. You take on the emotions of the world. You take on the energies of the world. And I found that as a non drinker, I actually have a pretty low tolerance, although there are some energetic practices I can do to put up kind of some energetic guards as a non drinker. And you could do this as a drinker too, but you usually just forget because you're drunk. But even as a non-drinker, sometimes I forget to put up these energetic guards. And when I go into a place that has a lot of energy, a lot of people, a lot of stuff going on, I have a very low tolerance for staying there very long because the energy that I'm absorbing is too much. And so as a non-drinker, I find that some of the places that I used to be able to tolerate when I had numbed out a little bit are not a fit for me any longer. I can no longer stay in those places for extended periods of time because my energetic sensitivity is just too high. And I'll make exceptions, of course, but for the most part, I choose to not go into bars or places where people are partying and inebriated or on a different level than me. And it's totally fine, but I just don't have the energetic. It's not a judgment. It's I don't have the energetic processing to do it, to handle it. And that's fine. But what I found when I was drinking is that I would have this anxiety for days after. And it wasn't necessarily just the effects of the alcohol. It was also that I had been energetically exposed to all of these people and other vibrations that weren't really amazing and that I was taking home energetic gunk and I really needed to clear some of that out. So that's one of the more subtle ways, but I think that if any of you here have gone into a place where a lot of people are drinking and you are not, you felt uncomfortable, and it's not necessarily because of the initial reason you think, it's more of an energetic reason. So I invite you to consider that and try that on the next time you're in a situation where you're like, this doesn't feel good, that it might be an energetic discomfort that you've never noticed before because you are always a little bit dulled down. So if this is resonating with you, if you are on a spiritual path and you are on a sober curious path or an alcohol free path, I want you to know that there are ways in which sobriety and spirituality can work really magnificently together and really help you create a life where you feel truly supported all the time. That's one of the experiences I've been having, is that when I stop listening so much to the voice of the ego, I learn tools for integrating that voice in a more healthy way, and I tap into the voice of my inner guidance system and lean into that as my main guiding force. I have felt so much more supported, so much more at peace, so much more able to find a solution. I have so much more agency, whereas before I was a victim and I would kind of give up and blame other people. Now I have this amazing sense of agency because I know I am so truly supported and there is always a solution available to me. And before, my solution was just to kind of blame other people. I'll say it. I played the victim really well as a drinker. And now I feel so much more empowered to take control of my emotions, to take control of my life situations, and to manifest new situations that are a better match for me and my desires and where I want to be and who I want to be and where I want to go in my life. And with alcohol in the picture, even though you are always connected to a spiritual presence, even though you are always being supported, I just didn't feel that spiritual connection and that spiritual support and um, all of that spiritual magnificence that I had available to me. I know this maybe sounds a little Pollyanna if some of you are just getting started, but if you are feeling me, if you are feeling just an ounce of what I am saying, I want you to know that there is something better available to you. And when you really remove alcohol, the barrier out of the picture, and lean into the spiritual practices that maybe you're already doing, or maybe you've just been curious about, miracles abound. I could talk forever about the miracles that have come into my life that before seemed impossible, too good to be true, that I would have rolled my eyes at before. There were some pieces of me that were skeptical when I was reading the books by the spiritual teachers, and they would talk about how wonderful life could be. And now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it, and I don't want to unsee it, which is exactly why I've chosen not to integrate like alcohol back into my life. It's become so insignificant because my life has become so miraculous. And I know that's available for you too, no matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing in life, no matter how tumultuous or insurmountable or impossible it seems. I know that miracles can happen in an instant if you just ask, if you just choose, and if you just show up. And so I'm here for that. And I'm here for you if you're feeling into that message. If you are and are wanting a mentor on that path, this is my favorite work to do. And there are so many ways to work with me in this regard. One that is coming up as you are listening, I'm getting ready to start in November 2022, a cohort of my very favorite program, Stop Drinking, Start Manifesting. And in that program, I guide you through shifting your mindset around alcohol. This is valuable whether you are still considering sobriety or you're alcohol free. I help you to implement some of the core spiritual practices that will help you to feel connected and supported. And then I help you implement some of the manifestation practices that will help you to become incredibly magnetic and tap into that connection that's always available to you, but becomes more powerful with alcohol out of the picture. And that course is truly, truly special to me. It's exactly the course that I needed. Back in the day when I quit drinking, it's exactly what I would have invested in, which is why I created it for you. And as I said, this program is great. If you are someone who is just getting started or early into your alcohol-free journey and you're really wanting to tap into that spiritual connection. And I always offer one-on-one coaching. I actually this fall have a couple of spaces opening up. And if you are someone who is ready to really go all in, have someone support you in a big way and stretch into your truest potential, oh, we can do some big things together, my friend. So just hit me up. I'll put a link here to book a call with me if you want to learn more about investing in one-on-one coaching. And no matter what, I'm here for you on this show. This is absolutely free. It's a way that I serve you. And I am just so grateful to have you here. You are a miracle in my life. And I hope that I can guide you to some miracles in your life as well. All right. Take care, my friends. Bye for now.